Good morning, JC.
JC, you with us?
Yeah, I'm right here. Did I miss the Taco Casa commercial?
Yeah,
well, he was.
He
wanted to get you on fast, so he went short on the Taco Casa.
I'll send you some.
I love that commercial. It makes me want to. There's a Taco Casa here in Greenville, South Carolina, where I live, and it makes me want to go there. So I love listening to it.
All right, JC. Before we dig into recruiting, I want to. We hadn't had you on in a couple weeks. I want to talk just a second about the Clemson-Alabama football game. Alabama had to pull some tricks out of the bag just to win the game, had to have some great special team plays. Did the best team win that football game?
I think so. I think to take nothing away from Jacob Coker, who I thought played very well in the playoff, I think Clemson had the best quarterback on the field, and I think that is an equalizer these days in college football. There are not a lot of great quarterbacks out there, and Deshaun Watson, in my opinion, is the best one, and it's not as if Clemson's talent level across the board is that inferior to Alabama. I do think Alabama's better. They have more weapons, but they're good enough to where when he's on, Clemson can play with anybody in the country and beat anybody in the country. I said before the game, Clemson has not done much on special teams this year. That's kind of been their Achilles heel, if you will. And sure enough, Alabama, made some things happen, and they've made things happen in that department all year. I think the best team won, but I certainly think it could have gone either way. And you had to be impressed with the fight Clemson showed, being down 12, coming back and scoring late, and never giving up. Also, their crowd, I thought, that's a pretty long way from up here in my neck of the woods all the way out to Phoenix, and they showed up pretty loud and pretty strong, and certainly that program, I think, is on the cusp of a national championship and should win one next year. Could be the year for them with Watson coming back.
Before Dad asks you some recruiting questions about this I guess coming up class and the 2017 class, just want to get your take with Alabama. What a great recruiting job Nick Saban and his staff did to get all those juniors to come back. Wow, I mean, you talk about winning some recruiting battles. That's big right there. I just wanted to kind of get your take on that and what people across the country thought when they saw all these guys coming back.
Yeah, that's sort of unprecedented, It's especially Jameson Allen, who's a guy that would have been drafted very high. I mean, I think A.J. Howard would have done excellent at the combine, as far as his size and measurables and all that. Probably would have worked his way into a first-round pick. I mean, you think about how Antonio Gates, who played with the Chargers, sort of revolutionized the tight end position in the NFL. And, that's who O.J. Howard basically is. It's a little surprising, and Alabama, with the way they reload and recruiting every year, they usually lose some guys, but getting those guys to come back certainly is huge. Nick Saban talked about the camaraderie in this team all year, and I think that's a direct reason for this. I think guys at Alabama that you're just love playing Alabama football, and that's a big draw sometimes. You don't want to leave your current situation in life. You sort of enjoy what you're doing. You got another year to do it, so why not go do it? So that's it was interesting. I didn't really expect it, but certainly if you're an Alabama fan, that's big news because you could be right back there playing Clemson again next year for the national title.
Yep, Dad.
Well, I think the best team, I won't get into that, but I think the best team that night won. I'm not saying the best team won in Alabama. I know our listeners will love to hear that, but Clemson played a lot better than I thought they could, and Alabama was awfully tired. Had Alabama kicked off to Clemson would have beaten them.
Yes.
I really believe that. I think the Alabama's tired enough for Clemson. But anyway, that doesn't matter. Where do we stand, or where do the coaches stand when Georgia goes against Alabama in this recruiting war over Georgia and Alabama kids, basically over Georgia kids, I guess, because of the defections, well, not defections, but the good news that, that Georgia was able to hire a couple of guys from Alabama. Where is all of this we're going to get a rub there somewhere along the way. I don't care what, but can Georgia take some with them that they hadn't gotten? What's the situation there?
Let's see if we can get JC back here. JC, you back with us?
Yeah. All of a sudden, I couldn't hear you guys, and it went dead.
Yeah.
I was just asking if Georgia and Alabama with Mel and Kirby leaving, will somebody steal somebody from each other? How's that gonna go?
JC.
Guys?
JC,
all right, I can hear you now.
All right. Dad was asking, I don't know if you can't hear him, but just with Mel Tucker and Kirby being at Georgia, is that going to kind of be a rub? And will Georgia be able to take some primary guys away from Alabama with their new staff over there?
Well, I think that Georgia is going to be better equipped to fight recruiting battles within the state of Georgia against Alabama, and also maybe some in the state of Alabama. But to sort of look at it, and with this particular cycle, Georgia's sort of in on the guy Georgia was going to get. Alabama really has done quite well with some other guys that I thought Georgia was going to get. McCole Hardman Jr., the 5-star athlete out of Elbert County. Right now he says Alabama's his leader. I don't know that at the end of the day, a kid from Elbert County, Georgia, which is up there in northeast Georgia, that's a dog stronghold in that neck of the woods, is going to leave. But right now he's saying the right things, and he officially visits Tuscaloosa this weekend. He's an electric player, and certainly we've seen it before with regards to Alabama, being able to go into Georgia and get top guys. They have a Georgia commit scheduled to come to campus this weekend. Linebacker Jaleel Logan's from Oconee County, which is right there near Athens. That's going to be a tough pull, but they're getting him in for an official visit. It looks to me, just with the way things are trending, that Alabama, really is kind of out in front of Georgia on a lot of top guys. Now, next cycle, the 2017 cycle, with Smart having a full sort of year to get things going and Mel Tucker being over there, that could that's going to kind of tell the story. But so far with the class of 2016, we haven't seen much in the way of Bama not doing as well with certain guys or having a negative impact with regards to Kirby Smart and Mel Tucker leaving.
I guess another question, with all these guys coming back, all these freshmen, they want to play early. Could that hurt Alabama a little bit by people saying, look, that thing's going to be logjam. You're going back there. All those guys are coming back. I mean, I know coaches will use that against them, but will that really factor in maybe in a guy's decision whether to go to Alabama or not?
Well, I think it'll factor in a couple of guys. The one guy that comes to mind is Jonathan Kongbo, the nation's #1 junior college prospect. If he's from Arizona Western College, he's a player Alabama wants really, really a whole lot. Tennessee and Florida State are the other two programs in the mix for him, and then Tennessee had him committed, and then he backed off. Florida State, according to some folks I've spoken to in Tallahassee, they feel like they're getting him, and they have for a while, and then lo and behold, yesterday, they got him to move his visit to Alabama from this weekend to the last weekend of the cycle, and he scheduled an official visit to Florida State, which he previously did not have scheduled. I think with a kid like that, that's a junior college player that's looking for kind of instant playing time, something like Allen coming back does play a factor. Junior college players typically are more inclined to really seriously consider depth chart and letting depth chart be kind of a driving force for their decision, because junior college players don't have but a couple of years to play, so it's paramount for them to get on the field early. Whereas a high school kid probably plays lip service to it, but they're more interested in sort of where the program's at, kind of where the depth chart is as it relates to their class, that type of thing, rather than, instant playing time type of deal. Playing time's just a bonus for high school kids. So, I think it could impact them with a handful of guys. The vast majority of players, probably not.
There's an article in the Birmingham paper about a junior college kid that Coach Saban was out visiting, Jamar King. I just want to see, do you know much about him? They're saying that Alabama's offered him. It's between Alabama and Ohio State. Just want to see if you're familiar with this kid as a defensive lineman.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama typically hits the junior college ranks for defensive linemen every year. Yeah, people don't realize that there's a negative stigma a lot of times about junior college prospects. But Alabama, just about every school in the SEC tends to go take them. King is a guy that's kind of a late riser. He's a kid that really sort of Tuscaloosa went out and found. Jeremy Pruitt went out and found. Ohio State's in the mix. My understanding is they have yet to officially offer, but I think they will. So you look at it, and I think Alabama has a very good shot. Just got to get him on campus, which they will this weekend. And I'd be surprised if they really push for him that they wouldn't get him. But he's got a lot of upside. He's a player that they sort of looked at and evaluated, and big 6'5", 270-pound guy that can definitely get in there and play. And the California junior college system kind of has guys like this that pop up every single year. It's a kind of a gold mine, really. No pun intended, considering it's the state of California. But you can go out there and find high-level junior college players. Not only they kind of pop up out of nowhere, but the guys that can qualify as well, because the academics are pretty strong within that system. So smart move by Alabama, by Coach Saban, Tuscaloosa, Jeremy Pruitt to go get on Jamar King, because I think they could get a sneaky good one here.
Barry, I ask you, can you hear me, JC?
Yeah, I can hear you now, Coach.
Okay. There's been this morning a lot of talk about Will and the job that they've done, because he's a high energy guy, no doubt about that. And he said that he had a staff that was compatible with one another, and I think he's done okay. Now, I think he's really Steve's situation was kind of messy. Hasn't he kind of put a little bit more energy in, or not energy, but done some things pretty well recruiting-wise at South Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Muschamp is a high-energy recruiter. You look at what he did at Florida, did a good job there, and yeah, that staff has been upgraded across the board. I mean, you look at guys like Travaris Robinson, who recruited Vernon Hargraves and Jalen Tabor to Florida while he was there and did a good job at Auburn in the year he was there. Lance Thompson, who fans of Alabama will certainly know, that's a guy that was a national recruiter of the year for the Crimson Tide. That 2008 class, which really got it started for Coach Saban in Alabama, Lance Thompson recruited Julio Jones and Mark Barron. And up until that point, Alabama struggled a bit in Mobile. They sort of took back Mobile with that coaching staff, and that kind of got it all started in Tuscaloosa. And then Brian McClendon from the University of Georgia, who recruited Todd Gurley there, who was a national recruiter of the year himself, was another guy the Gamecocks have on staff. And they've also gone with guys that are familiar with the state of South Carolina. Will Muschamp sort of had an epiphany, and people in this state have known this for years. He went to the Carolina Panthers Atlanta Falcons game, and there were 6 guys on the field that were from the state of South Carolina, played high school football in the state. One went to Clemson, none went to South Carolina. A lot of them were, 1AA level guys. And there's talent in the state that for years the University of South Carolina just has ignored, not evaluated, been too late to get on, or they've had other teams come in there and take them. And so you got guys like Bobby Bentley, who was a legendary high school coach in the state, Sean Elliott, who was the interim head coach for South Carolina, and guys like Ellis Johnson and Clyde Wren behind the scenes that are doing quality control, and that makes it a situation where you have a blend of SEC and national recruiting experience, plus guys that know the state, which is a very unique place. And so I think that what he's done so far has been very, very good. He's going to have to win some games, obviously, because there's a lot of skeptics, but as far as recruiting goes, Will Muschamp and his staff have done an excellent job.
You know, there's a lot of talk about, we had a guy on earlier this week that said Mississippi State had kind of gone dead in recruiting, you know, that I don't know if it was because of their head coach interviewing for so many jobs, but Ole Miss is burning the trails. I just want to get you to talk about those two schools. Obviously, Ole Miss has been a thorn in Alabama's side on the field the last 2 years. What's really turned for those guys to be able to recruit as great as they have?
I don't understand why somebody would say Mississippi State's gone dead in recruiting. I mean, they're not dead yet. I mean, it's a situation where, you know, they have a different recruiting plan than Ole Miss. Ole Miss is going to go out and try to land, you know, 4 or 5 of the best players in the country and recruit their state. Mississippi State's going to be, you know, a very big factor for in-state kids, and then they're going to go try to make great evaluations. And fill it out. The issue with Mississippi State right now, and I think that person's probably just looking at the rankings. I don't know. You know, when you kind of look at it behind the scenes, or you know, there's a chance that Mississippi State has another fantastic year. You know, you look at it, they have 2 guys that are 4-star level guys at Starkville High School this cycle. You know, and if you lose those, yeah, I think you're going dead a little bit. But they got a defensive tackle and a wide receiver. Both of those guys, you know, one of those guys is yet to officially visit, but it looks like Mississippi State's got a good shot at both of those. And then they got a 4-star offensive tackle at West Point High School, which is right down the road, right there down the road from Starkville, down the road from you guys as well. And they could get him. You know, Jeffrey Simmons, 5-star defensive end from Noxubee County over in Macon. He's sort of a local guy. It's Alabama, Ole Miss, Mississippi State for him, and certainly, you know, when you look at Leo Lewis last year, Mississippi State can close well on in-state guys. So I think that as far as recruiting goes, if you're Mississippi State, you know, you just got to close the deal on some of these local players. You know, you can't let either the kids from Starkville High School get out of your backyard, obviously. You need to go get the kid from Noxubee if you can, and you definitely need to get the offensive tackle from West Point, and they do that. It's a top 25 to 30 class. And I think they've won 19 games in the last 2 years with, you know, lesser-ranked classes than that. You know, right now in the state of Mississippi, we have an interesting dynamic, and I think this is the linchpin to the SEC West remaining top-to-bottom dominant. You know, both those schools, Ole Miss and Mississippi State, used to routinely let guys out of the state. They go to LSU, they go to Alabama, you know, they go to junior college and then go far away. You know, the last 4 cycles, I think there's been 1 or 2 guys from the state of Mississippi among the top 10 prospects in that state to leave. I think one of them ended up going to LSU and then coming back to junior college and then back to Ole Miss, and Ole Miss got him back. They're not letting guys leave the state. And when you do that, you're going to have a pretty good team year in and year out at both of those schools because there's talent in Mississippi. And if you can do that, you're going to be in the hunt. And that's kind of the phenomenon and what nobody really talks about as far as why the West, top to bottom, is so dominant. Because you know, the Mississippis, all of a sudden, aren't letting guys take their players. And so they're going to be pretty good each and every year.
One last question. Dad may have one before we let you go, and this is going to come across as arrogant. I don't mean it arrogant, but Ben Davis here at Gordo. All right, I mean, I think he's going to go to Alabama. Maybe Georgia's in there a little bit. Why does a school like, and this, once again, this doesn't, I don't mean this disrespectful, but why does a school like Notre Dame, and I know Notre Dame's got great academics, this, that, and the other, why would they bring a kid in on a visit like that? I mean, they have zero chance to get a kid like that out of Gordo, Alabama. I mean, it's right here. I mean, why do they even waste time just to bring in a top-notch guy to show they're going after the top guys? Or do they really, really think they got a legitimate chance to get a guy like Ben Davis out of Gordo?
Yeah, I doubt they would. You know, here's the thing. There's 2 things. First and foremost, anytime you get a kid in on an official visit, it's you got a puncher's chance. Now, it may not be a very good puncher's chance, but it's a puncher's chance. Secondly, you know, in college football, more so than any other sport, because, you know, we sort of determine the playoffs by a committee that ranks, you know, and that's their perception and opinion. we get talent into our programs based on recruiting rather than a draft. It's sales, so perception matters. Stuff like bringing in 5-star guys to your campus, even if you don't get them, that feeds that perception, of your program, and it may help you get another guy. So that's why they do it.
Yeah.
It's the puncher's chance thing, and then the perception, because in college football, perception definitely matters.
All right, Dad, you got anything else before we let JC?
No, I can't think of anything. We appreciate JC being on. It's it's a situation where people love recruiting. I did it so long, I don't love it so much, but most people that listen love it.
JC, tell everybody where to find you guys, Saturday Down South, and whatever else you guys are involved in.
Sure, yeah. Come to SaturdayDownSouth.com. It's just complete wall-to-wall coverage of the SEC each and every day. I wrote an interesting piece yesterday about Nick Saban and sort of his age. I was assigned this piece. This is right about Nick Saban's age, and if it'll ever impact Alabama recruiting, like Steve Spurrier said he did in South Carolina before he left. And I answered no, and I had a pretty interesting reason, why I did break down. So come read that, and looking forward to talking to you guys again soon.
All right, JC,
Thank you.
appreciate
Thanks,
it.
JC. Appreciate it.